Hi guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, I want to show you my Cattleya walkeriana again. Here I have a semi-alba and a coerulea that's in bloom. And the semi-alba I've had it since the spring of, well, I guess January of 2024. And the coerulea I recently picked up on a trip down to Orlando over the past Thanksgiving. I picked up the coerulea when it was in bloom and it smelled great. That's why I picked it up. And I've had the semi-alba, as I was saying, for a couple of years now. Unfortunately, the backside of it kind of rotted, so I cut it up and saved the front part. And then I moved. And then, the plants have been through a lot. I know the plants don't look the prettiest, but it's been through a lot. I would look much worse if I went to the same thing. So I'm sure most of you already know Cattleya walkeriana, but in case you didn't, it's a very highly fragrant species from Brazil, and in the wild, it's known for a very distinct dry, wet season, and people say it's actually getting really dry in the winter, and that's also why some people say you really have to withhold water for them in the winter to trigger bloom. In my case, in my experience, that's not been the case, and I've talked to some professional growers. I don't think they withhold water drastically different from other Cattleya species anyway either, and their walkerianas are just growing strong and blooming fine, so I don't think that's necessary. And also, they're from, I think, more of the interior parts of Brazil, where there is pretty strong differences between day length between summer and winter, and I believe that's probably one of the main reasons that triggers flowering. And I've been growing mine inside, and the temperature is not variable throughout the year. So I believe the day length is the reason why the flowers are initiated in the fall, or in my case, late winter / midwinter. And also, some people say that if your walkeriana flower in the spring, it's likely not pure walkeriana. I don't have much evidence for or against it, but I just know I enjoy them. They're just lovely species. And there are a couple of main color forms. The coerulea is one. Semi-alba is one, coerulea is another, and I also have a more typical purple / pink walkeriana over there. But those two are in bloom, but that one isn't, so I thought I might as well compare them. Not compare them, put them in the same video. Okay, a couple of things I do want to mention that I learned over the past year, which now looking back seem pretty obvious, is that first, everyone says Cattleya walkeriana is a very highly fragrant species. That statement is true. However, there is some variation, if not big, among individual plants. So, for example, well, not even with different color forms. Like that coerulea smells a little bit more floral, and that semi-alba smells a little bit more powdery. But that aside, even the same color form, the same cross, the individuals could smell different. So I picked up that plant in a batch of, seedlings among the same cross. And that one caught my eye because other than the incredibly flat flower when it was in bloom, the smell was much, much outstanding and stronger than its siblings from the same cross, which is, I guess, not expected because, there are huge variation among individual plants in nature anyway. But that one smells so strong that I wrapped it up, put it in my backpack, and I could still smell it through my backpack. It was that strong. And this coerulea is also one of the strongest coeruleas I've smelled, and that semi-alba is just more of a classic strength. Of course, most walkerianas are going to be strong enough so that if you're in the same room with them long, if you don't like the smell, you're going to get a headache. But I love the smell, and that's great. But I guess my message there is that I've learned that maybe I should pick up orchids only when they're in bloom and when I can smell the flowers, because the fragrance is very important to me, and there's no reliable way to tell how much it's going to smell to me unless I'm there smelling it myself, which is also a good way to curb my buying orchid activity because, my orchid collection has gone through boom and bust cycles, and right now it's kind of in a boom cycle. I literally ran out of space. Yeah, but back to the walkeriana. I think that's the biggest thing I want to mention is that if you care about fragrance, do pick it up in person when you can actually smell the flower. And I was also hoping to make this video later, but this plant have like 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that a bud? 4 more buds coming. So this will look a lot better when they're all in bloom. But I probably won't have time to make that video back then. And also, since now we're looking at the flowers from the side, you see this is not the most typical AOS favored flat full flower that everyone wants. But to me, you know, like, I don't care. This is a benefit of being a private grower. I don't really care how AOS thinks of my flowers. I love them. That's all that matters. Okay. The other thing is that walkeriana are known to flower in this basal pseudobulb without any leaf. This is the previous bloom, and this is when I cut it up and moved. So it's only grew a tiny pathetic pseudobulb last year, and then it's flowering again on this pseudobulb without a leaf. That's usually the case, but in this coerulea, this pseudobulb just flowered a few months ago, doesn't have a leaf, but this pseudobulb has a tiny leaf. So I guess that rule is probably more true in nature, but in cultivation, the plants are a little bit pampered, so maybe they can put out a leaf. So that's also, in my experience, not always so absolute. But you know, with biology, nothing is absolute. Oh, actually, there are 5 buds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 behind that leaf. So when those bloom out in the next week or so, this plant is gonna look amazing. I hope it does not exhaust itself. I don't know why we're doing it. Just take care of yourself, okay? All right, I'm gonna stop being lunatic and talk to my plants. One other thing I do want to talk about walkeriana is sunlight. So you see that leaf was burnt by my growth light. It was sun bleached basically. You know, because we're all like, yeah, they love great sun, but just be careful when you put the plants directly from transition from a relatively well-lit area to a very well-lit area. They will not always adapt right away, and sometimes you burn the leaves. But you know, like, it's not the end of the world. You just gotta adjust the height. It was very close to the light. And also a common rule of thumb is that when you feel the leaf, if it feels very hot, then it's probably not great. However, there are also some species like that Cattleya that I salvaged back there. They really don't seem to mind that much when it's pretty hot. Of course, not burn it. It's not like, don't send it to Mercury. But yeah. Lastly, just a look at the rest of my collection. And as I was saying, it goes through bloom and bust. Right now, it's very much a bloom. I literally ran out of space. And I had to put some of the not so low light plants down to the bottom shelf because personally they're not that high on my priority, which is kind of mean to the plants. But you know, I gotta do what I gotta do. A couple of blooms that's expecting. So here is a primary hybrid between walkeriana and a Cattleya. That one, if you can see, has buds. I'm very excited about that. In the back there is a Schroedery. Let me see where that one is first. Ooh. Does it focus? Yeah, that's probably, you see the kind of the dark colored bud. That's a first bloom. So if it blooms, I will be thrilled. And I've never seen a Schroedery. I don't know why it's so hard to find Schroederys these days, but apparently they last a long time. And apparently they flower early from seedlings. So I'm very excited for it. Hopefully it goes through. But I won't be surprised because it's first bloom. It might be a little bit wonky or whatnot. Other than that, I have this Schroederia that is putting out a sheath, but we'll see if it blooms, and a bunch of other things that don't really have any active buds. You know, they're just kind of coming out of their winter dormancy, if you will. Oh, and since I showed you this Cattleya before, the full story was that I put some Cattleya down in my in-laws' trees in Orlando, and I mounted them, and because they're kind of a pain for me to water before, And I was like, I regret that decision. So when I was down there, the same trip where I got this coerulea walkeriana, I was like, let me take some back. So so I took a couple of front leads from the mount on the tree back. You know, it's if you've done it, it's never easy to get an orchid off of a mount once established itself. But right now they are just on this log, and they're very tough species. But you know they're gonna take some time to recover. Like this one, it's pushing out roots, and this one already has some roots. So the one in the back, and the one in the back you may not be able to see, but there is a little bit of root tip coming out of that new growth. So hopefully they will recover soon and bloom for me again. But I really like that individual plant, so I want it back. All right, non-orchid stuff. Lastly, I got a couple of sundews. I've had sundews before. It's not that exciting, but you know, I was like, might as well branch out to try new plants. That's a capensis. Capensis. Anyways, the most common sundew plant, the most robust, the easiest you can find. I know they like full sun, but right now it's kind of cold outside, and that is a tropical / subtropical, but probably tropical sundew. People would classify it under. It doesn't like it to be too cold, and look at all the fungus gnats it catches. However, I will say, because you have to basically soak them in, like sit them in still in water, it's actually breeding more fungus gnats because of, you know, the damp, ever damp soil where peat moss is growing in. Other than it's catching, so I don't know if long term it's worth it, but short term it's still a good plant to have. And also, they just look so cool. This will eventually, I've had it before, it will eventually get kind of tall and ugly, and because of the sticky dew, it kind of gets everywhere. And we'll see what happens to it when this one gets to that size. I'm not married to this plant, unlike those beautiful walkerianas. Okay, back to the sundews. So I've had the capensis before, and I was like, let me branch out to different sundews. So I got those winter sundews or tuberous sundews. Those are the ones from mostly concentrated in southwestern Australia, and they grow in the winter when it rains because they're from, you know, Mediterranean regions, and then they go dormant in the summer, and they have a tuber to go dormant. I was like, this is great for my southern Arizona winter weather because in the winter it's kind of mild. I can put them outside, and in the summer when it's really hot, I don't have to worry about filling them up with distilled water. They're very needy distilled water every day because otherwise I'm gonna go broke buying distilled water for them. However, when I bought them, I put them outside. The plant looked great, and then it got crazy windy for like a whole weekend, and it desiccated everything. Yeah. And so I moved them inside. It's probably not the best choice because those two are basically gone or went back to be dormant. Time will tell. Because probably my inside is kind of warm for them, and the day length might also be triggering. I'll show you the other one to show you a little bit what I mean. But this one is supposed to be a rambly / climbing one. That should die. Nothing's coming up, so I don't know if it's just going dormant. I hope, or maybe it will come back, or it's just died. It happens. The best growers kill things. I don't blame myself. And you don't blame yourself either if you ever killed any plant. This one is more upright. When tuber sundew, it's pushing out a new growth, very tiny. I don't know how that's gonna go. Hopefully it gets bigger. And this one is a rosette leaf tuber sundew. They're all tuber sundews, by the way, but they're in different groups and have different forms and habitats and habits. This one, I think it's flowering. You see that little thing there? Let me get closer. Like this thing and that thing, they look like flower spikes to me. I've never seen them flower before, so I could be wrong. But yeah, I don't know. Right now the timer is on like 11-hour day length. I don't think it's that long yet, but maybe it's the change. It increased from whatever it was outside, maybe 10 hours to 11 hours, and then it's blooming, or it's just a little bit too warm in here, so they decided to flower and then to go dormant. Who knows? But at least looks like for this one, something is happening that I'm just grateful for. Okay, let me end the video with a final look at my walkerianas. Semi-alba, looking great as usual. The coerulea, kind of skinny petals, but again, personal collector, I don't care. They look great, they smell great, I love them. Hope you are loving your plants as well, and if you're in the eastern states, I know a lot of people are having winter storms, and just be safe out there and stay warm.